the number of classifications, and based on the classifications and duty statements or roles and responsibilities is where we're going to be applying the specific training that each employee has or will need. And that's going to help with the yearly evaluations. Where are we going? We are going into a little bit or working toward a little bit of a change in philosophy in the agency. The prior philosophy up to a point, or what it was you were evaluated based on what you delivered. But core competencies sometimes also have to take into consideration not the amount of what you deliver, but the quality in the partnerships and the communications and all what you build, right? It's like going into one of our major projects, and if from a technical perspective, we feel that alternative A is super for speed, let's say, but we do not consider the impacts to the public, we don't communicate what's being considered. Yeah, that group, that team, that employee may be doing their job up to a point, but it's not taking into consideration all the other elements that a public agency has to take into consideration. So we're going into this foundational point of, as we're tracking all the recommendations, they indirectly feed into what those core competencies should be, what those duties should be, and how we should be a more an agency that is focused on deliverable, focused on technical skills, but also have that a little bit of empathy of trying to understand all the different points, including the local agencies. Sometimes a regional agency may seem at one point, and a local agency may come back, a city, and say, hey, you're affecting us this way. We need to consider that. So that's kind of the cultural shift that we're moving towards into the partnerships, the communications, and the innovations piece of it. So I think that it's all the holistic efforts that Shanae is really helping us with this discipline that we're moving forward.
Very good. Okay, before we go to public comments, does anybody have any technical questions of Shanae before we go? Mayor Duncan.
Thank you. Could we go back to slide 7 for a moment? While we're doing that, I want to say thank you for the report. I thought it was very clear, and I appreciate the data. I think when I'm looking at it, the questions I have are just fairly straightforward. We don't know what we're not told, right? So like one of my first questions I would have after that report, and I think it is good that it seems like you're proud of the progress that's being made, and I think that's great. We want the progress as well. And but again, my question, one of them would be, are there any recommendations that you're trying to implement that are problematic and not getting implemented for any reason that you would want to know if you were a board member of SANDAG or of this committee?
Good question. I think it would be related to recommendations that have been addressed to SANDAG, but are not SANDAG's responsibilities. So for example, the Transnet recommendations from 2018 and 2021, the bulk of them that were outstanding, well, not the bulk, a lot of them that were outstanding were due to recommendations asking for changes to the Transnet ordinance. Those were assigned to SANDAG, but that is a board discussion and an item that the board has to kind of resolve. Okay. So like in the future, when we do the Transnet audit for the 2020, what period are we approaching? 27, thank you. For the 2027 period, one thing that I plan to ask the auditors is if there are recommendations that are directed to the board, that those be explicitly outlined in the report so that we can sort of see that distinction. The board can be very clear about what's directed at them, and you all will have a sense of the urgency regarding the recommendations that are under your purview.
Okay, yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think the CEO may have a comment too, but that might be something to sort of almost have a category of non-internal resolvable ones, something like that. So we could go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, another example was, if I recall correctly, it's the tracking of payment quality as we give money to each of the local entities. But each city tracks their pavement quality differently or in different ways. And we haven't been able to get consensus with all the cities what should be the right methodology. And we don't control that. We keep trying to have those meetings, but each city has their own independence and they figure out how they evaluate their infrastructure quality.
Interesting. Mayor Minto, question.
Yeah, this might tag a little bit onto what Mayor Duncan was talking about, but my question would be, after all of the things that we've implemented, do we have a system in place to identify the success of the implementation? And it's kind of like having milestones. Did we reach them? How do we know that as an organization we are actually functioning better? I mean, because anecdotally we could say, oh yeah, we're all getting along better, and we've talked about that, especially at retreats and stuff. However, when we're an organization that deals with facts and figures and absolutes in so many instances, it sure would be nice to know if there is an actual way of capturing the success. And then I think that along with what Mayor Duncan's saying is that I guess maybe the question is, I don't even know if this is where you're at or not, but Mario, what have we done so far to bring the cities together or the agencies together so that we can create those systems that are all alike, so that because I think it would work better for us all if they were all aligned, if that makes any sense at all.
Antoinette, did you have something?
Yes. So over the years, we have had a lot of conversations about not just pavement, but other systems to kind of track performance related to Transnet and how Transnet projects are delivered locally. And by and large, the cities are pretty resistant to investing in a single system or adopting a single methodology or approach to doing it. A lot of our smaller cities, for example, just don't have the resources. So that's a barrier for them. And other jurisdictions have, or because we're a well-oiled machine, right? The way that they've been doing it, it's working really well for them, and changing is kind of a heavy lift. So there just hasn't been a lot of support from staff at local jurisdictions for changing the way that they do things or implementing a new process when they really don't have the resources or staff capacity to do it.
But I think Mayor Minto, also to add, you hit it perfectly. We're developing multiple metrics in the capital program. We're looking into the dashboard, seeing how much we are within the budget, timely delivery, different things like that. I can tell you that you will be receiving a message from us next week probably, where the finance department just notified us that the SR 125, we got an unmodified audit opinion, which is an improvement from the prior 2 years that we got a modified. So that's another huge gain that we have achieved, that the team has been able to achieve based by implementing a lot of the recommendations. It has helped us to, shore up our audit team, our finance team. So there are multiple areas, but I hear you. We need to make a better job on kind of presenting in a concise manner. What are we achieving? What are those metrics in the agency, right? We're going to also have to work on getting better in our grants programs and timely delivery or responses. So we will create, as we're moving, and Shanae will work with us on creating a kind of succinct or of what are the achievements that all this is helping us get to.
Okay, and as far as the staff, I think we've many of us at our councils have heard that staff can be a barrier to moving forward. And so we have to, from time to time, have some conversations with staff about that. It would be nice to see maybe some kind of, list of recommendations from, our side that could tell all of the mayors, for instance, or council members that are engaged here, where we're falling short on those things. And now they don't maybe always have to match exactly, but if there's attributes that really do need to be met, then we could push it from our level to our managers and even our directors of whatever public works or whatever we need to do. So if we could work on that, because we should be helping you to help us. Can't believe I just said that, but
Thanks.
thank
Mayor.
you.
Supervisor Aguirre.
Thank you. My question is in line to what's been already discussed, but it has to do more specifically with metrics and timelines. So some of the recommendations that have been included date back to 2018. So my question is there a way that we could just make it very obvious which ones have been stalled or which ones will be implemented in the forthcoming year, or even place an asterisk with a timeline, like, or time frame of when we expect those to be implemented. And to Mayor Duncan's point, I think he makes an excellent point. If I feel sometimes staff is shy about like saying the obvious, like this is definitely something we can't work on. It has to be the board. Let's just not be shy about that. Just spell it out in this document and say this has to be addressed by the board, or should be addressed by the board at some point. Otherwise, X, Y, and Z will not move forward. I think that we should just be very clear.
I can certainly look into figuring out a way to present that in the
That would be
presentation.
great. That would be great. And then the other one, just if there's a way to visually show which recommendations, especially as they relate to the high risk ones, matter most operationally or financially. I think making that distinction is also important. Thank you.
Sort of weighting them. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mayor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. I thought it was great. So kind of to the point of, do we want the payment information to be standardized? I think there's got to be some way for us, because you know what? The thing that honestly frustrates me the most about government is when people say, we've been doing it for 30 years that same way. That was one of the things I'm like, well, does that actually mean that it's actually working just because we've been doing it that way? Obviously, you're not getting the information that you need to be able to put it all together. So it seems to me there's got to be a way for us as cities, and to, I think it was Mayor Mento's point, call on us, and I think maybe Supervisor Aguirre said this too. We need to know how we can further assist you, because it is something that's important to us to be able to have that information. So if it's on our end at Sandag, we have like something that can be input into our system to standardize it so that we have the information all in one place that is the same. It can't be so labor intensive, in my opinion, that we can't do that. It seems like there's got to be a way for us as cities to be able to give you the information, put it in a standardized sort of form, or whatever you actually need. Even if it doesn't match up on our system, there's got to be a way to make it work. And, we all have IT systems, I think, even the smaller cities. But there's got to be a way to do it so that we have that information. And then as far as Supervisor Gary and then Mayor Duncan mentioned, I think it's important for us to be able to know if we need to step in and as a board make a decision and, come forward to move us forward, because 2018 is a long time to have something kind of floating around. And so, for us to be able to resolve that, I always have this stressor of, here's an unfinished business, in my opinion, and I don't know what it is, and I don't know how to get it done because I need more information. I think it's good for us to know as board members how, again, we can assist you, because our job is to help make this a better functioning agency. And we can't do that if you're not calling on us. So I would kind of, to Supervisor Gary's, be bold. tell us what you need. And, you know, and I think it would be good to get maybe, we're getting our quarterly updates, but maybe if there's things that, okay, if the board were to make a decision and move forward on this, it would actually help you out a lot for the next reporting period. I think prioritizing things like that would be helpful too. Anyway, that's it. Thanks.
Mayor Duncan, and remember, we're on questions and then we got.
Yeah, thank you. I just have a couple final brief questions. I noticed on the chart, I think I may have said the wrong page number, but there were a couple HNTB outstanding audit matters. And I was just curious if those are ones that were included in the where we're, or just where are we on those couple outstanding ones?
So the HNTB, oh, those.
It was on the chart of the long. that
Yeah,
showed them
there's
all.
like two. They just came due during the period, and we had been focusing on a lot of the contracts and procurement items. And so those two, the date crept up on us. It's now on my radar, and we're looking to sort of have those as an area of focus during this basically April through June period to try to make some headway on those.
Okay, and so there's no particular problem or issue. They're in line with what's important, most important to get to, because that's helpful to know, because I mean, maybe it was 2 years ago, but the board was heavily concerned and interested in having those resolved. So,
Yeah, the HNTB, that's the most recent audit.
okay.
And so as I'm kind of going through and doing a periodic review, I'm going to start seeing a new crop of recommendations that are polling through. And so like the HNTB audit recommendations are forthcoming. The recommendations from the accounting and finance Weaver audit, those are going to be coming online kind of June, July. So then I'm hoping to get, you know, the focus from our procurement and contracts, get those kind of stabilized so that we can then begin to shift resources towards these next set of recommendations that are coming due.
So with that said, do you have a expected time, if I missed it, I apologize, time frame on when those HNTB ones will be done?
I need to double check to see if I had extended the deadline on those. In the next report, I can provide a more updated timeline, so to speak, of all of the recommendations that are due to date. I've made some requests for updates since I did this particular report, so those might be a part of that request.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we appreciate getting that information. And then I have a comment, but I'll save it till after after question period.
Vice Chair LaCoffey.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the good work. And, you know, just quickly say thank you for presenting this in a variety of ways, because we all look at things differently and we have different interests. And so having 400 different charts of all different kinds actually, I think is helpful. A couple of things, some of them raised by my colleagues. I'm a little confused about why items that actually that I think fall more into policy rather than operation. The board doesn't bring things forward. We rely on staff to bring things forward. So I don't know whether it is the executive committee or the three of us that are getting in the way of saying, here's a policy issue that was raised in an audit. We want to bring it forward. Let's talk about when's the appropriate time to bring it forward for board action, as opposed to leaving it in the, you know, not implemented or in progress status. So just a little side note from what I was hearing. The other element is the in progress. I think for me, it would be helpful to understand something that's in progress. You know, is it 1% done or is it 95% done? And I know that can be difficult to actually put a percentage completion on that, other than we're working on it. But to provide further clarification of we're actually making meaningful, the difference between we're making meaningful progress to getting something done in a desirable time frame, as opposed to, yeah, we're kind of kicking around, but we really don't know where we're going to be, to the degree that that might be identifiable. The other element, because this is always the friendly beef I have with audits, where it's like, you're not doing best practices. Here's our recommendations to move into best practice. Now, if I understand your role with internal controls, there's an opportunity, I think, and this is what I'd be kind of curious for you to weigh in to, actually what is getting in the way of not completing or not implementing things. Because right now we're ready to adopt a budget. Should we have allocated more funds for staffing or whatever that would have allowed us to move faster and getting things done. And I think that's what I've always missed from an audit, and it's not really their job, but is to understand, is it not having the right staff, or not having enough staff, or not having the right skill sets, or not having the budget kind of things. And that would be something I think, for me at least, it would be helpful to understand, especially during budget season, so that we can begin to address those. And sometimes we're not going to be able to, but at least having that information would be helpful. So I'll leave it at that, but this is really, really good work for that first report. Thank you.
I just wanted to address a little bit. Some of the recommendations, we go sit down and look at them and say, okay, this is a high risk element. And we laser focus on it versus others. And I'll talk about policies. The ones that are not like high risk, that it would be good to have and are in the recommendations, our general counsel is looking at a wholesale evaluation of policies. And we're also working in manual developments. And some of our board policies look like a manual more than instead of guidance to the employees. So we're working also on figuring out that connection about what a board policy should really look like and direction, and not going step by step of what should be, right? And we're developing manuals. A good example, we just put out the procurement manual. And it took a lot of work, and we know it's going to have another update, but we updated the procurement manual based on recommendations. We have a team working at that also. I think some of with all of us, the challenge is we deal with the high risk elements, the strategic elements, but we also have to have the agency keep working and delivering its core functions, right? So those ones, and then we start working on the other ones there.
So I have two quick questions, and one is sort of taking off of what Vice Chair was saying, and that is, are there recommendations that rely on some other big thing being done before it can occur? For instance, is the ERP system get in the way because it can't talk to this, and like how that must extend the timeline a lot, and then the cost of that? I'd be kind of curious to know those sort of outstanding ones that have a roadblock that has to be fixed internally also, but that maybe the board needed to weigh in on in some way, shape, or form. And then the second question I have is, if I recall, some of the audits duplicated what another audit had found. How are you addressing those in your presentation?
So for example, the training items, those were kind of crossed amongst multiple audits. So I took all of those together, identified the common elements, and then what we were seeing was, okay, there's a lot of procurement related items that needed to be addressed. So then based on that, our procurement and our contracts and procurement department has developed a procurement academy. And so that procurement academy is addressing the topics that were coming up and coming through the recommendations. So that's an example of kind of taking an accordion approach to kind of looking out and then kind of zooming in on how we can best use resources and capacity to get those items.
And then you check off like
implemented.
3 or 4 things.
And then you check
yeah,
them all off at
Yeah.
the same time.
That's great. Okay. All right. No other questions. We will go to public comments and then we'll have some discussion, further discussion. Michael.
Thank you, Chair. We have 1 in person and 4 online. Commenters, please limit your comments to item 4. If comments are not related to item 4, you will be asked to stay on topic. If you do not stay on topic, you will be muted. So first is Truth, followed by Paul the Bold online.
Well, yeah, you guys talk a lot. It's probably important, though. I assume it's important. I don't have an opinion on the graphs and charts, but I am going to say that addressing and implemented / solved are not the same thing, for the record. But I agree on cultural change being needed because this teenager agency's highest categories of issues are the basic mechanisms such as standard operating procedures, metrics, and documentation. It's pretty shameful. You're basically working from the bottom still. You had over 50,000 tax dollars that went to the 2-day taxpayer-funded vacation at the Humboldt Casino that could have paid for temporary staff or interns to help get this overdue work done. Priorities. You need to start getting a grip on SANAG's bike lane projects that are costing $10 million each on average. Where are the checks and balances on building projects nobody wants, nobody uses, and everybody questions how there's up to $28 million a mile of bike lanes to nowhere? Where are the checks and balances on who gets the sole source contracts to monopolize on the profits off the projects? Because anything over $5 million, which is every bike lane, the profits are automatically going to a political organization, the Building Construction Trades Council, which just props up the progressives, which those are the ones who got us in debt. Let's be real. It's been 3 years now. I brought up solutions to the core issues, the elimination of expensive project labor agreements, and their so-called community benefit agreement that excludes all fair competition and equal opportunity that was approved with conflicts of interest on the board at the time. The introduction of required thresholds and metrics for all projects, especially the bike lanes, the expediting of required retraining of all Sandag employees who were hired before 2025, because let's be real, that's when things are really bad. And the introduction of a publicly accessible record system so that no more taxpayer-funded records under Sandag's mismanagement go missing or intentionally deleted ever again. But to summarize your guys' comments, what you need is a mechanism to track goals, kind of like having evidence of what was or wasn't discussed at the retreat. Thanks. I got my lunch date booked for later.
Next is Paul the Bold online, followed by the original draw. This is item 4, the internal controls update.
Sandag finished the oldest audit recommendations. Great. Still has incomplete recommendations 5 years old, and it's leaving some with the highest risk over those with lesser risk, which is wrong. Are the audit committee meetings canceled to avoid making public record, by the way? Slide 3. I see that the total recommendations by audit is the same in February as December. So does this mean that no recommendations were resolved? If the audit committee met more often, this might change. 5. Great news that 8 recommendations from 2018 were finally implemented. 6. 12 audits in the last 5 years must be a record of some kind, and that 9 of 25 recommendations of the 2021 Transnet audit are not implemented is appalling. Interesting that there were 21 recommendations in the 2024 audit compared to 25 in 2021. No wonder there's still so much distrust. 8. Why only 3 random themes? I'd like details on all of them. Not sure where slide 9 went. Too controversial, perhaps? 10. Pity that the high-risk themes seem to have the most unimplemented recommendations. Is there a reason for this? The audit picture is getting better. It's good to pat yourself on the back from time to time. Our patience, though, is wearing thin. You've got to do better. Thanks.
Next is the original draw, followed by Blair Beekman. This is item 4, the internal controls update.
Man, you guys, one thing you are very transparent about is about your incompetence. That is one thing. It is one question I have is if you are auditing HNTB, why would you contract and bring in your back office system with the same entity, because your new back office system that you contracted with is contracted with HNTB. So I don't understand how you guys can make this kind of negligent decisions time and time again. I mean, Sandag is like decades old. I mean, it's older than I am, and yet it's still unable to complete things and actually do what they say. So it's like, it doesn't matter how many times you guys try and reform and do all these things and bring in all these other stuff, you're still going to be an incompetent agency for doing what you tell the people you're going to do. Because what you're doing is you're doing a United Nations agenda. And I would actually like to have you guys audit or look into the data of who's getting paid by Israel. That would be one thing that would be interesting to find out. But also, I would like to have you guys audit the information that you are using to say that the climate is changing in the way that you guys say. You need to be making sure that you're making sound mind decisions for the people and not allowing us to be poisoned when you're saying that you're going to care about the air and the water and the land and the people, because we're being sprayed upon us. That's why it's like you're under the weather. You're not really sick. You're just under all those toxic chemicals that come down from the sky when they spray them on us. They also inject you with it if you guys like to take those little jibby jabs.
This is item 4, the
So maybe
internal
that's
controls
why you're
update.
not, excuse me, I'm talking about this audit and what you guys need to audit. You need to quit silencing or trying to interrupt free speech as well. That's another thing that needs to be audited.
Next is Blair Beekman, followed by Consuelo. This is item 4, the internal controls update.
Hi, thank you, Blair Beekman. Thanks a lot for the report. It's nice to hear committee persons are enthusiastic and want to be talking about this item. It's new to me after all this time of attending SANDAG meetings that the person who was given the report is part of the audit committee, and they're part of a volunteer effort. And then there is also the OIPA, the Office of Independent Performance Auditor. So those are the two different auditing agencies, I guess. I'm better understanding. I'm just learning to clarify these things for myself. I don't know. I just thought I would state that at this time. Life is a learning process. It's slow for some people like me, and now I'm better understanding. And that's my better ideas of clarity at this time. Thank you for this item, what was spoken about. In what was said, the final words from the presenter, procurement is important to myself in the concepts of tech accountability and how tech accountability can be included in the procurement process. SANDAG likes to take a lot of pride in their work of Argus and their whistleblower things that have been doing, the whistleblower things have been doing, you've been doing some great work in that. Whistleblower can be technically related to tech accountability. They kind of came up together. By doing those practices well, that develops a good procurement process, like in how you trust Argus. And doing all that together, that's how you build a good procurement. So I thought I'd just remind how tech accountability can, if we do that well at SANDAG, it's a good piece to have in when we ask about procurement issues. It's a good part of the puzzle. Thank you.
Last public comment is Consuelo. This is item 4, the internal controls update.
Okay, so Consuelo here. Thank you for that reminder, Michael. Okay, internal controls are supposed to ensure accountability, transparency, and integrity. They're supposed to protect the people from fraud, waste, and abuse, and that's not what people are experiencing. What we see is a system operating internally behind closed loops where the public is expected to trust processes they are not clearly informed about and outcomes they have no real voice in. No transparency, just more of a system protecting itself. And if these controls are truly working, then why is public trust continuing to collapse? Why are concerns raised over and over with little visible change? At this point, it's not enough to say control exists. There needs to be a clear protocol, a requirement to actively inform the public, not buried reports, not delayed audits, not information that only insiders understand. The public deserves direct, consistent communication. That means local news agencies should be routinely informed clearly and openly about what this body is doing, what it's finding, and where failures exist. People should not go searching for truth. People should not have to go searching for truth, because right now it feels like these controls are protecting the system, not the people. And let's go a step further. When decisions and priorities continue to align with the broader global frameworks, including those tied to the United Nations Agenda 21, without clear public awareness or consent, it only deepens that distrust. People are paying attention now, and what they're seeing is a lack of transparency, a lack of accountability, and a growing disconnect between those making decisions and those living with the consequences. So the question is simple. Are these internal controls here to serve the public or to protect the system the public no longer trusts? Because right now it's very
Thank you.
clear
Your
how
time
it
has
feels.
expired. That concludes our public comment on the item, Chair.
Thank you. Mayor Duncan, would you like to kick off the discussion?
Sure. Yeah, I'll be brief. Again, I appreciate the report. I just had a couple general comments I wanted to make about it and about the reports to this committee and the board. I'd recommend, and I know it's great, again, to be proud of the progress we're making and everything. And I think rightfully you should, and also of your report, especially the presenter, you seem to have a very good handle on it. One thing that I think really helps with board relations is if there are any warts, any negatives, to just share those up front. Because despite what, some staff may have thought in the past or how it may have appeared, the board is not the antagonist of the staff. We are Sandag. Okay, we are Sandag. So we really want to know. I don't want to, and this did not happen today, but I don't want to grapple to get information out. So if there's something negative that comes out with the audits or how we're making progress, it's so great to know it up front. It really helps with trust and honesty. And I think you could hear from the comments today. And again, I think of all the board members here today, and in general of almost all the board members, I believe it, they want things to be good. And I think things have gotten dramatically better, and we want to help when we can. So that's just a general comment. I do think, actually, also, I wanted to say, I think the board generally respects and thinks our staff is very smart and in total and works hard and tries to do a very good job. The one piece, though, that sometimes may not make it seem like that is that with these audits, the main goal that I personally have, and I think most have, is we do not want to see repeated audits with the same negative findings. And with that does come at some point potentially the necessity for accountability within the staff. So that's just the way it goes. That's how business is. That's how government needs to be run to comply with procedures. People need to follow them, or eventually there has to be consequences. But with that said, thank you for the report.
Thank you. Any other comments? I see none. This was a discussion. Oh, yeah, Vice Chair.
Just real quickly to build on Mayor Duncan's, and I think we did a lot of better talking before we opened this up. Thank you for the work. I do not envy your job. You're kind of the messenger in where we're at as an organization. And I appreciate you developing these tools to really try to communicate perhaps for the first time on the progress that we collectively, staff and the board, is making on terms of responding to the audits. I know today's conversation was not about what other audits should be done. The auditors ought to hear about that, or the audit committee ought to hear about that. Not for this particular item, but I think there's been some good feedback from the board members that hopefully will be useful to you for when we see that next quarterly update going forward. But keep it up. Again, you've got a tough job here because you're the one that's going to display things. And, I'll say, and I think Mayor Duncan kind of touched on this, also we have a responsibility to kind of encourage the operations side that they're doing good work and they're making good progress, and that we appreciate and respect that. There's more work to be done. And I think that we're making good progress, and we're trying to pivot this organization. I don't care if it's 1 year old or 50 years old or whatever it is. But I think we're on the right path, and we've got a good solid board doing this good work and got the right team in place and the right leadership in place. So that was what makes it hopeful for me and what comes next. So thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I'll just point out too that this is a new position that Sandag has filled. Shanae was on our audit committee, to speak to something that Blair Beekman had mentioned. She was on the audit committee. And then when this new position came about, we advertised it and you applied for it, and we're head and shoulders above everybody else from what I understand. So we're pleased that you're here. And I think that was an extremely important step for the agency and for creating public trust, that we are taking a serious look at the recommendations that were made in all of these audits that we've had, and all of the findings, and that we're making very good progress. I mean, this was quite impressive to me, how much progress you've made, because you haven't been here for that long. So I really appreciate your expertise in pulling this all together, and Mario's help as well. And I mean, again, I like the point that you made that it's not just that they were checking, things off in terms of staff doing a job. It's got to be the right job. It's got to be, taking into consideration everything, all that we deal with, the public as well as the projects themselves and the interpersonal actions and stuff. So with that, this item requires no action. So we'll move on to the next, which is sustainable transportation services and motorist aid programs. Antoinette and Aaron are here to give us a look into something we don't hear about very often.
That's right. A few less charts and numbers in this presentation. So the reason you're hearing this today is last year, as part of the governance refresh project, the board policy 1 was updated to expand the scope of the executive committee. And one of the things that was added to your many responsibilities was oversight for the direct services that Sandag offers the public. So today we're going to provide you with an overview of those services. One is called our Sustainable Transportation Services Program. It's a mouthful, so I'm going to say STS, and our motorist aid program. And Aaron is joining me from our Regional Transportation Services Program down at Toll Ops because he's the manager of that program down there. So the reason we offer these services is that one of our federal mandates as a metropolitan planning organization is that we have a congestion management plan that we develop and implement. That plan is part of our regional transportation plan. And we have to describe how we will manage congestion by 1, reducing drive alone trips, and 2, really operating the system effectively. So the 2 programs today that you're going to hear about are core components of that congestion management plan. The first one, which I'm going to talk about, really focuses on that reducing the drive alone trips. And then Aaron's program, the motorist aid program, really helps to keep traffic moving on the freeways by reducing delays and improving safety. So the STS program is really a whole suite of programs that are highlighted here on the slide, and I'm going to go through each of them in a little bit more detail, starting with our van pool program. But our region has actually operated a van pool program, you might not know this, for more than 30 years. It was at Caltrans before it came over to Sandag. We have been recognized nationally as having one of the best van pool programs in the country, and this is a really good solution for long distance commuters who kind of live and work in the same place. You need 5 or more people to start a van pool. And the way that it works is Sandag has a contract with vehicle vendors, 2 vehicle vendors. The van can lease, the group can lease a van, and we provide a subsidy of up to $600 a month towards the cost of that lease. Currently, we have 345 vans in the region and over 2,000 participants in that program. Many of our vans are coming from Riverside. They like to take advantage of the I-15 express lanes. They've got the reliability and they can use the express lanes for free. We also have a very high percentage of van pools that go to our military bases, and that is because on top of the subsidy that we provide, the military offers what's called the Federal TIP Transportation Incentive Program. So it's an additional subsidy, and that makes van pooling almost free, if not free, for military personnel. So we have a great partnership with the military. We do a lot of outreach to the military, and they have been key customers of the van pool program over the years. A lot going to Mayor Duncan's city to that base. Transit works well for some commuters, and for those who it will work for, we have a program called Try Transit. It's a partnership with the operators. We offer commuters who are interested in trying transit to work a free 1-month transit pass that they can use on any of the services. The only commitment is that they use it to take transit to work the majority of the days during that trial period, and that they participate in a survey and tell us about their experience after it's over. Last year, we had over 700 participants in that program, and more than 25% actually continue to use transit on a regular basis to work afterwards. So it's a really great way to get people comfortable with taking transit, to give it a try before they make that commitment. The Guaranteed Ride Home program is what we call our insurance policy for commuters who take an alternative commute. We've heard a lot from commuters that they don't like to take transportation alternatives because what happens if they get stranded at work? They get a call that their child's sick, they need to pick their kid up, their carpool partner gets sick, they have unexpected overtime, they're going to miss their bus. So we have a solution for that. Up to 3 times per year, we will get you home up to $100 on a taxi or Uber Lyft vehicle for those reasons. And we have a lot of people that enroll in the program that never actually have to use it. 900 enrolled. We only had 78 trips reimbursed last year, but it just gives that extra reassurance that people need to take a transportation alternative. We have several categories of bike programming. First is bike education. We have a contract with the San Diego Bike Coalition to do bike classes. So this is group-led rides. This is rules of the road, bike safety courses. We work a lot with schools doing bike rodeos and helping them implement their Safe Routes to School initiatives. Last year we did about 100 classes and more than 950 people participated in those classes. So it's been a pretty success, or sorry, 9,500 people participated in those classes. It's been a successful program. We also have secure electronic bike lockers at all of the transit stations and many park and ride lots throughout the region. So this helps folks who want to ride to transit have a secure place that they can park their bike. When you have the access card, you can use any one of our electronic bike lockers across the region. And then, of course, I think you're all familiar with our annual Bike Anywhere Day campaign. That's part of our bike encouragement activities as well. But we also produce a very comprehensive online and print regional bike map that shows all of the different types of facilities in the region so that you can plan your bike route. And speaking of Bike Anywhere Day, it is right around the corner. Many of your cities do host a pit stop and you participate. If you can help us get the word out, registration is open on our website. Now you get a sneak peek at this year's t-shirt, kind of a retro 80s theme this year, and a nice bright color, which is something that folks have been asking us for over the years. So 10,000 stops at pit stops last year, which is really good participation, and we're hoping to exceed that this year. You all know about the Youth Opportunity Pass program, but we do a lot of outreach to schools to promote the Youth Opportunity Pass program through our sustainable transportation services. So we have a team that works with schools to get the passes out and to help young people learn how to take transit. And we've talked a lot about the success of that program, 37 million rides by youth since the program started a few years ago, and 50,000 unique youth riding transit any given month. And the success of all of these programs is really dependent upon outreach. So we have a team that works with employers. We've got over 200 employers in our program right now. They represent 500,000 employees. We work with those employers to survey their employees and then to develop customized commuter programs, getting their employees into van pools, car pools, transit. And we're always looking for more employers. So if you want to help us make connections with employers in your cities, we will be happy to take those. And we're happy to work with your agencies. You all are employers too. Mayor Duncan's city was awarded in our Diamond Awards last year for being a city that participates and offers commuter benefits to their employees. I mentioned the school commuter program earlier. We do a lot of Safe Routes to School outreach and help schools in that way. And more recently, we started working with property managers and developers in affordable housing developments and new developments that have limited or no parking. So we're working to get transit passes and information out to those residents about their mobility options in their communities. So that wraps up the sustainable transportation services portion, and I'm going to hand it over to Aaron, who's going to talk about motorist aid.
Hi, thank you. So the the motorist aid program consists of 3 components. They are the Freeway Service Patrol, regional call boxes, and 511 information. The programs are designed to be a one-stop shop for traffic information and a lifeline to motorists in need of assistance while aiding traffic congestion, cutting the chance of secondary incidents, and supporting vehicle emission reduction by decreasing fuel consumption and commute times. The Freeway Service Patrol, or FSP, is a statewide program operated by SANDAG in partnership with Caltrans and the California Highway Patrol. You can usually spot FSP on the highway in white vehicles with the yellow triangle logo affixed on its side. The program is a congestion and safety mitigation service consisting of a fleet of roving tow and pickup trucks that patrol the region's urban highways primarily during peak and commute periods, assisting stranded motorists with a gallon of gas, changing a flat tire, jump-starting a vehicle, or towing a stranded vehicle at no charge to the motorist to a safe, predetermined location designated by the California Highway Patrol. In 2025 alone, FSP assisted nearly 67,000 motorists. Since the service began in 1993, FSP has assisted more than 2 million San Diego motorists. Average wait times for this service was 3.8 minutes compared to AAA response time of 12 minutes to an hour. This is primarily because FSP is actively patrolling the highways looking for motorists in need. Caltrans, in coordination with the Institute of Transportation Studies at the University of Berkeley, prepares an annual report of the system. In the most recent report, San Diego achieved a 4-to-1 investment. So basically, for every $1 that we spend on the program, $4 of benefit is gained in return. On the call box side, the program is a network of 379 yellow call boxes located on the region's rural highways. The call boxes form a network of cellular telephones designed to link travelers in need to a call center staff 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Assistance is available from police, fire, ambulance, towing, and other service personnel, and they can even connect you with a family member or a friend. In 2025, 2025, call boxes received nearly 12,000 calls. 7,700 were motorist aid related. Since the program began, it's fielded over 2.5 million calls. 511 is a free phone and web service and a component of the region's one-stop travel resource system that enables motorists to access transit information like up-to-the-minute information on traffic conditions, incidents and driving times, schedule, route, fare information for transportation, carpool and vanpool information, biking information, and more. 511 also acts as the mobile call box from any cellular phone by dialing 511 and choosing roadside assistance. Motorists in need can obtain the same assistance as they would if they would be using a yellow highway call box, from towing services to police and fire, all directly from the cell phone. In 2025, 511 fielded over 67,000 calls, nearly 184,000 web page views, and over 71,000 users. I'll turn the presentation back to Antoinette for some final remarks.
So that's it. That's a high-level snapshot of the two transportation services. You'll be getting more regular performance reports on these programs. And of course, we're happy to answer questions or dig a little deeper into any of these programs today. Thank you.
Amari.
Just want to highlight that the TDM program is basically, I would say, about close to 100%, if not 100% federally funded. And the traveler assistance programs are locally funded or funded through the SB1 program by state funds. So those programs are federally funded and state funded. So I just wanted to also clarify where the origins of the funding comes.
That was going to be my question. Any questions before Mayor Jones?
I have a quick question, and thank you for the presentation, specifically on the bike information or outreach on that. Are we specifically getting into, and I apologize if I missed it, are we getting into talking about e-bikes, because that is a very important thing? And we use the San Diego County Bike Coalition to do our, well, they don't do it by themselves, but they're part of all of our bike education. So just wondering if we're doing that.
Yes, and we also just last month got our Vision Zero Task Force, which your cities are a part of. That was the theme that we were talking about. So different policies that cities are adopting, how we're handling e-bikes and making sure that folks are operating those e-bikes safely. So yes, it's definitely an area that we are branching off into.
Okay, because we've started our enforcement part of our program that we did adopt the state law through Assembly Member Borner. Sorry. Gosh. Anyway, we've actually done that, but I still feel like we're seeing a fair amount of kids not educated about it, unfortunately, and We've got our Ride Right program going, as I mentioned, and I still feel like there are a lot of parents that are unaware of what the laws are. They're just buying their kids whatever. And so, we're doing it in rounds. Whenever we have, like a break, when we come back, we're starting to, again, do those pop-up events. We're doing pop-up events in San Marcos, but I still feel like there's just not that. So I don't know how we do it further, but I think if Sandag, if we focus on that part specifically, it could be helpful for all of our cities.
Any other questions, Supervisor?
Just a quick question. Thank you for the presentation. I was just hoping if you could elaborate a little bit more on the 4-to-1 return on investment of FSP. What is the methodology around that? How do you quantify that?
Sorry. So Berkeley prepares an annual report in coordination with Caltrans. And so they look at, I can actually look exactly what they do. So they look at annual savings in incident delay, fuel consumption, and air pollution emissions. So they look at those different factors and put that into a model and come up with the benefit cost ratio, what it is.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Interesting too. Okay, let's go to public comments.
Thank you, Chair. We have 3 in person and we have 2 online. The first is Truth, followed by allegedly Audra. This is item 5.
Rebecca, I got a solution for the brats on e-bikes problem. All you do is you lock up the parents for child endangerment. Very simple. So I'd like to know how many people actually show up to SANAG's virtual and in-person bike events versus how much funding is going into them. What's the cost benefit ratio? And how many unaccompanied children have been kidnapped, injured, trafficked, or killed due to using the Youth Opportunity Pass? Does SANDAG not track that data? Do the children in SANDAG get signed up at school? Do they have permission from their parents first before giving out their data? Probably no, right? 37 million taxpayer-funded transit rides for unaccompanied minors equates to $92.5 million down the drain since May 1st, 2022. That's progressive socialism in action. And notice there's only about 50,000 unique riders. That's nothing for the cost and risk. What is the cap on funding? Is there one? Why is funding being redirected away from safety for paying riders? Why is SANDAG reimbursing EVs for van pools costing $600 each if EVs don't even count towards CARB's demands? If more than half of the van pools are coming from Riverside County, then why doesn't SANDAG propose the purple line go to Riverside County and connect with the real border of transportation concerns? Why does slide 4 show people in useless masks like criminals? Why does someone need a 1-month pass paid for by taxpayers to try transit? If they can't afford $6 to try it on their own, I don't think we're living in reality. 714 people enrolled in this scam times the cost of at least $70 per transit pass is about $50,000 blown. The Guaranteed Ride Home program costing up to $100 per ride, up to 3 times a month for each individual, with bare minimum 7 to 8 trips reimbursed is $7,800 at the lowest cost, up to $2.7 million a year for 905 participants. So does this program have a cap? Is there any verification that they actually need the program? Because I see it, the program itself is basically an admission that SANDAG pushes an unreliable risk. You should have call boxes for transit users, if anything. And you know what else would be helpful is little parking lots next to highways so people can sleep rather than do dangerous tire driving.
Next is allegedly Audra, followed by Emerald. This is item 5.
Yeah, I know. Thanks. Yeah, it's so interesting to see the things you guys do and the propaganda you use as your data to push the most ridiculous things. And you don't care about children. That's why you wouldn't care if you went and spoke to them alone without their parents' consent or encouraged them to ride on a bus and potentially get kidnapped. I mean, Scott Wiener's a pedophile and you guys support him. So why would you support children and make sure that they're not being put in harm's way? Because that would just be too much of a cost, right? Because it costs a lot of money to traffic a kid. So you just can keep doing it over and over. Why get in the middle of that? But your whole van pool is a little bit interesting because you guys have people driving around the freeway very dangerously with your sign on it. It doesn't really look good when you have dangerous driving like that taking place under somebody that you guys are supporting. And this whole e-bike stuff, it's interesting because it's like as things come down the pike, you know, there's enforcement, right? Because then you guys can get more revenue and different things like that. So people that think that they're going to be more free to do something like ride a bike, it's just going to be like driving a car one day and you guys are going to penalize that just for going around. And yeah, I don't know why you guys call this implementing a congestion management program, because what you do is you actually increase congestion with the things that you guys implement. It's an inversion of reality. And I can't wait for people to really wake up to that so they can see exactly what's happening around them. And they don't just thank people for destroying their lives, but they hold them accountable. That's when we're finally going to have something happen, because the government has to go. Once it goes against the people, that's it. We're occupied by Israel, and that is very terrifying to think about. And I'm wondering how many of you get paid by them to implement different things as well. So yeah, Lisa, it's good.
Next is Emerald, followed by Paul the Bold online. This is item 5.
Good morning. I want to address this board here meeting with my concerns. I am a veteran, and I'm also a third gen San Diegan. So most of you don't know this, but I just want to address my concerns and make sure I'm heard, understood, because I will be addressing each of you individually, one by one. So even though I'm here right now addressing you guys as a board, I will also be addressing you one by one individually and making sure that what I say gets understood and it gets implemented and something gets done about it. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and say this real quick. I have nothing prepared like I normally do, but my concerns today is gonna be safety. It's my number one thing, safety. So I want to address my concerns. I'm a frequent traveler of the bus and trolley, and I have serious concerns about the safety and security of us riders. I have noticed an increase in homeless riders and illegal aliens. I would like SANDAG to take a proactive approach, and also I have seen children being trafficked. So I'm here to support my fellows right here with, I've been seeing children being trafficked. And I feel real uneasy when I see this happen because I know it's happening. So like I get real emotional and I really want to do something about it. So I just want to let you know that's where my mental is at when I see children being trafficked. So with that being said, what's SANDAG doing about this? And I want to know if you guys are aware of children being trafficked. And so I want you guys to take this seriously and take me seriously because I will be doing a follow-up on all of you guys. So thank you.
Next is Paul the Bold online, followed by Blair Beekman.
Hi, Paul Bold. Guaranteed ride home is a really nice idea. And I'm wondering if you can charge a small fee after a third ride to expand this to 4 more rides per month. Slide 3, van pool subsidies for EVs should be lower than gas, not higher. EVs weigh more, tear up the roads more, do more damage if they hit people or things, and are harder to extinguish if they burn up, spontaneously ignite, or spread wildfires. 8, Youth Opportunity Pass is a great program. They can put up with the dirty, smelly buses, maybe get beat up, maybe enjoy the conversation with the weirdos. 4, I am impressed that you give people a whole month free transit pass. Are the buses so smelly that they need masks like in the picture? 7, the map looks like you can't bike to East County on Bike Anywhere Day. Hope East County gets a refund on their SANDAG taxes. Slides 10, 11, and 12. Motorist aid programs are useful, but I wonder if they're duplicative to what the police and emergency services already provide. Seems faster than AAA though. And is the 511 website duplicative of what news services and others provide? Could we save money perhaps by copying these? And do we end up paying for idle time? Some great programs, but I see the potential for savings. No, big no to e-bikes. Thanks.
Next is Blair Beekman, followed by Consuelo.
Hi, thank you, Blair Beekman. Thanks a lot for the clarifications from the chair on the previous item. To quickly paraphrase a few words of the presenter from the previous item. Good luck. The tech accountability can be a part of the accordion of procurement that she offered. What the future procurement could be for SANDAG. Good luck at tech accountability's role in that. For this item, thanks a lot. I attended last night was the monthly VTA public meeting, the public transit for Santa Clara County. Where I'm originally from, and it was a good meeting, and nice words were spoken. It was just mentioned during the meeting and the importance of how do we get enthusiasm for building our public transit agencies again. And it's an important concept in our post-COVID era that we're having problems with. Good luck that we're addressing funding and finding important new forms of funding patterns and not just, raising fares and cutting services. I think that's an important concept. What do we do towards enthusiasm? And this item, what I wanted to say was that this item works towards that. You try to address that. Thank you. And you do an admirable job. These items are a bit focused on motorized issues a bit more. I think, do you remember in the 2000 and 2010s, bicycles were really important and were really making a really interesting connection between bus travel and community. And it was, man, something really interesting was happening, and that got really squelched. And good luck how we can bring that back and how this item is a part of that process that can bring that sort of good thinking back to ourselves. Thank you.
Our last public comment is Consuelo. This is item 5.
Okay, Consuelo here. So yeah, I wanted to say amen to all the previous speakers, concerned citizens, not just speakers. And, especially what everybody said, but especially Paul the Bold. What I want to emphasize is that, with all these updates and all these items, I really want to stress on what I'd said previously regarding, just being informative to the public. And this means, like I said earlier, local news agencies should be routinely informed clearly and openly about what this body is doing and what it's finding and where failures exist. Because at this point, the fact that the majority of the county do not know you exist, that's a huge failure. And, like I said before, people should not have to go searching for the truth. Because yes, that's what it feels like right now. And safety, 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 everything under the guise of safety. They will, they will comply if you guys continue to use that. Fear works, so good job. And that's all I have for this. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment on this item, Chair.
Thank you. Any member comments on this item? I see none. That concludes our meeting. The next executive committee meeting will be May 1st at 9 a.m.